Corporate Resources Scrutiny Committee. While everybody settles in, I shall just go through our regular announcements. So please can I remind everyone present that this remote meeting is being live streamed as well as recorded via the internet, and the recording will be archived for future viewing. If a participant wishes to speak, they can do so by using the raised hand function located at the bottom left-hand side of the screen. If having raised your hand, you haven't been invited to speak, please could you turn on your camera to indicate or place a message in the chat function. While speaking, could all participants ensure that both their microphone and camera is on so you can be both seen and heard? And if for any reason this isn't possible, please try to bring this to my attention. If and when the Welsh language is being spoken during this meeting, then a simultaneous translation is available to listen to. The language selection tab is available under the audio settings tab on the left-hand side of the screen. This translation will also be audible on the live stream of the meeting for any persons who are observing only. Please could all participants ensure that debate is conducted verbally and not via the chat function for the sake of this recording. So welcome to tonight's committee members, non-committee members, officers, and most importantly to any of our residents who are joining us via the live stream. So before we get going, and as this is the new municipal year, I just want to make a quick announcement about some of the changes to our committee. Councillor Ball and Councillor Franks, who have been committee members, are not with us this year, so we thank them for all of their good service and work over the last year, and for Councillor Franks over the last 4 years. And would like to welcome to the committee a new member, Councillor Sue Lloyd-Selby. So thanks everybody. So if we move on to agenda item 1, and that is the appointment of Vice Chair for the new municipal year. I myself would like to nominate Councillor Ewan Goodjohn, who has been an excellent Vice Chair over the last couple of years. Councillor Drake?
I would like to second that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So do we have any other nominations, please? No, that's great. So thank you, everybody. Councillor Ewan Goodjohn, you have been chosen to be the Vice Chair for this year. So thanks very much. If we now go on to agenda item 2, which is apologies for absence. I've been advised that Councillor Campbell won't be joining us tonight. I don't know, Rhys, if you've had any others.
I believe that's the only one we've had so far.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Agenda item 3 then is to receive declarations of interest under the Council's Code of Conduct. Do we have any members who would like to raise a declaration today? No? Okay, that's great. Agenda item 5, I'm taking you all back to March the 25th. That was our last meeting, and these are the minutes from that meeting. For the members who were present at the time, can I have a hand, please, to move to accept that those are accurate minutes? Thank you, Councillor Goodjohn, and thank you, Councillor Norman. That's great. Moving on to agenda item 5. This is the first reference tonight from Cabinet on the 26th of March. This is our People's Strategy 2026 to 2030. And I believe we might have Tracy. Do we have Tracy? Yes, we do. Here's Tracy. Thank you to take us through the report. Thanks, Tracy.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me okay? Just to check before we start. Brilliant. Thank you. So yes, I'm here this evening just to present the People's Strategy, which has been referred from Cabinet for consideration at the Scrutiny Committee tonight prior to final approval. You'll see attached with this document the Cabinet report, and included with that is Appendix 1, which includes the People's Strategy itself, Appendix 2, which is the the plan of action in terms of how the strategy will be implemented. And Appendix 3 is the consultation that was conducted between the summer and the autumn of 2025. That consultation process was broad, deliberately broad in terms of both the approach and the methods that were adopted, and considered both internal consultation with our senior leadership team, our heads of service, and also our trade unions, but also our staff teams and staff members, and internal and external partnership groups. So the consultation was broad in itself. If I could just touch upon a couple of prudent points from the people strategy itself. The intention was to align strongly with the corporate plan and the reshaping programme and the 5 wellbeing objectives that are attached to that. In its development, we considered all of those approaches, including further statistical analysis that had come through from an economic perspective, including the WIM data and the Council's panel peer assessment. We also had the opportunity to consider an Audit Wales schematic review that was undertaken at the time and look at some feedback that's come forward from that. And that led us to develop 4 pillars as part of the strategy, which is future fit, a great place to work, making a difference, and leadership. All of them rooted in creating a great place to work for our staff in order to be able to deliver excellent customer service and be the best council that we can be, or aim to deliver that. If I can just draw the attention of the group to the consultation process and some of the feedback that's come through from that consultation process, that's included within Appendix 3. So the feedback was broadly positive and talked about it being ambitious but realistic in terms of its expectations and aims, having strong alignment and being very accessible. There was some feedback around the provision of the document in an easy read format, and also how we engage strongly with our members of staff that perhaps don't have access to elements such as StaffNet, which is a staff platform that we have in terms of communication. So, for example, how we would communicate with our waste teams and crews, and how we communicate with our cleaning teams. And we've got meetings forthcoming in relation to that, and how we develop plans and proposals to look at how we do that and how we do that moving forward. It also focused quite strongly on the elements of compassionate leadership, and was very kind of complementary in terms of it being people focused and with people at the heart of everything that we do. Some of the other feedback was then around capacity and our capacity to be able to deliver, budget and resources being tight, and the limitations that arises from that, and how as a council we continue with transformation activity at the pace that we wish to do that, with the operational pressures, and how do we balance those two. You'll also see reference to feedback from our schools. And that feedback was quite pointed actually in terms of how the people strategy can ensure that our schools are very much part of us as a council, and that they're not considered as an afterthought, which was what they anticipated or read from the first draft of the people strategy, and how we could continue to include those schools from representation on boards such as the people board, for instance, and how they can be part of some of the decision making processes around that process in general. So I just bring in this strategy to you for feedback and comment. Welcome any the questions that you may have, and I'd be delighted to answer and respond to any positions that you may have coming forward. That was all I was seeking to say, Chair.
Thank you very much, Tracy. I really enjoyed this this new report. I like the way it's written. I like the way that you're aiming it at the employees. I like the language you're using to describe the things you're going to be doing. I've got quite a few questions, but I'm going to ask committee first before I get going, if that's okay. So has anybody got any questions they'd like to ask? No? Councillor Johnson, please come in.
Diolch, Gadeirydd, a diolch I Tracy am y cyflwyniad yna. Fel dwedodd y cadeirydd, mae hyn yn dogfen diddorol ar sail y geirfa, sut mae'n cael ei ysgrifennu ar nifer o lefelau sydd yn y dogfen. Felly mae'n diddorol i gweld y rhan fwyaf neu y dechrau sy'n edrych at sut rydyn ni'n gweithio, sut rydyn ni'n anelu weithio gyda'r staff, ond y cynllun gweithredu sydd yn dod wedyn oedd y peth fwyaf ddiddorol i fi, achos dwi'n ni'n darllen y darn gyntaf ac yn ceisio gweithio allan sut rydyn ni'n mynd i brofi bod hyn yn gweithio i ni, a nid just yn res o eirfa a buzzwords sydd ynddo fe. A mae'n diddorol nodi pan mae gen ti glossary sydd rhyw 4 tudalen. Sa'n siŵr os mae'n dweud fwy am sut mae'r holl HR yn gweithio dyddiau yma. So chi angen esbonio gymaint o dermau, a mae hynny falle rhywbeth sy'n allan o dwylo ni. Hoffwn gael tipyn bach fwy gan Tracy ar sut wnaethon nhw addasu'r ddogfen ar gyfer ysgolion. Rydyn ni'n nodi'r adborth gan penaethiaid ysgolion sydd yn rhan o'r atodlen 3 yma. Jyst hoffwn gwybod tipyn bach fwy, achos mae staff ysgol siŵr o fod yn hanner staff y cyngor, felly iddyn nhw dechrau'r proses trwy meddwl neu troi'n disgrifio hynny'n fel teimlo fel afterthought. Mae hyn yn codi cwestiynau ynglyn â pwysigrwydd yr ysgolion yn y cyngor fel rhan o'r proses. Wrth gwrs mae'n just profi dangos faint mor eang yw cyffwrdd y cyngor, gan fod hyn yn cyfro gymaint o bases wahanol o ran staff. Felly tipyn bach ar hyn, os gwelwch yn dda.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Tracy, would you like to come back in, please, for thank you? Yeah.
Yeah, happy to come in, and thank you, Councillor Johnson, for that. So if I could just consider the 2 elements, I think one in which you were asking how we would evaluate and how we would look at that more general, and then the second one in terms of how we've adapted the document from a school's perspective. So just in terms of the evaluation, what we are working on, and we've got kind of a broad structure currently, is looking at how we would replicate some of the action points in terms of some statistical analysis and data. And our plan is through the newly created People Board. I say newly created, it's been in existence for about a year now. So just in terms of the newly created People Board, they will be responsible for evaluating that process and being a critical friend, essentially. And we will report data in terms of our progress along with that action plan to that board, and then make those statistics available more broadly, which will then form part of the Senior Leadership Team Forward Work Programme. I'm also very happy to bring reports cyclically to this meeting, etc., if there would be a value in doing so that you can see how we're tracking our progress against that action plan, if that gives you some comfort. In terms of the feedback from head teachers, I wasn't surprised with the feedback from that head teacher group. We've got some really strong communication channels with that group. They're a really trusted group, and we work very strongly with them. And I was very encouraged, actually, that they felt that they could speak really openly around the first drafts of the document that we had. And as a direct result, we did amend and change the people strategy document quite significantly, so that there were elements of our schools and school-based staff written into that document, so that they didn't read it and think, oh, are we included? Where can we see ourselves in terms of the visibility from that? We've also now got a representative that's going to attend the People Board. So originally we didn't have a schools-based rep on the People Board, and we will have that person moving forward. It's likely that that person will change on a cyclical basis, but again, they can provide the feedback and hold us to account and look at some of the measures that we can implement as part of that. And we're also given consideration to that from a more broader perspective. I will also attend some of their more regular meetings that they have, and I already attend the head teacher steering group meeting so that we can talk about the people strategy as part of their forward work programme, for want of a better word, and they can give us some direct feedback in that. We're also looking at how we can make available aspects such as StaffNet to those groups so that they have regular communication and access back. So I welcome the feedback, actually, Councillor Johnson, if that makes sense, because it was important to me that that feedback was really candid, and it has allowed us now to put a real eye on our focus from a schools-based perspective and ensure that they are included moving forward and that we can get some traction behind that as well. I hope that answers your question as best I can, but the intention is it would always evolve, and the more feedback we can get from that group, it is welcomed.
Diolch yn fawr, Tracy. Wnest ti cynnig rhyw fath o adroddiad neu diweddariad i ni dros y cyfnod o'r rhaglen sydd yn 4 mlynedd. Sa'n gwybod os mae'r cadeirydd yn cytuno bydd hwn yn syniad da i dderbyn hyn, os oes unrhyw modd o gyflawni ar falle yn flynyddol neu rhywbeth fel yna. Sa'n gwybod os oes diddordeb gan pobl mewn hyn.
Yes, I would absolutely support that recommendation. I think we'll probably ask, if that's okay, Tracy, for you to come back next March. It'll be the last meeting then of this particular committee and of this administration. So we'd like to see the progress then. And as Councillor, as Ian has suggested there, I think if we could have an annual report, it would be good during the period of the people strategy. And it's good to see the difference as well. You have listened to the teachers. You are right, it was pointed and there was a bit of tension in their response. But that actually probably demonstrates exactly what you're trying to create here, which is that psychological safety, that opportunity for people to say really what they think. And as long as we then respond and we change, which clearly you have, and we are now including schools on the people board, that's progress, and that's I see that as positive, as you do too. So that's really good.
Chair, if I can just come in, sorry, apologies. I meant to also say it will be in the self-assessment process as well. So, but of course, if there is a desire for a separate report, we will ensure that that happens also.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you. Councillor Carroll, would you like to ask some questions? Please come in.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Tracy, for the presentation. If I could draw the committee's attention to page 9 of the report, and this relates specifically to the commitment to prioritise the development of an actively anti-racist council. Now, there has been a lot of coverage in recent days of this topic. A number of examples have come to light regarding anti-racism that are extremely concerning. My own view is that this is an ideology that the authorities shouldn't be embracing. I mean, to give just one example, the police anti-racism commitment of March 2025 urges police forces to treat different ethnic groups differently to ensure that arrest rates are the same, even though the offending rates are different. Now, that's obviously concerning, but I think something that all moderate, reasonable people would describe as unacceptable. I certainly do, and this is just one example. Several other instances of anti-white discrimination have also come to light where this ideology has been implemented and imposed. So I would ask why this authority is making it a priority to embed this and would urge the council to reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. I would just like to, and I respectfully say this to you, we are here today to talk about a people strategy for the Vale of Glamorgan, not about what the police may or may not be doing. This is purely to do with this people strategy. And I don't think that anybody here, as far as this committee is concerned, are going to object to us being clear about the fact that we are anti-racism, as a statement goes. I will bring Tracy in because you've asked a question and she will deliver her response to you. So if you just want to wait for her to come in, and I'm sure she will. Okay, no problem.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm happy to respond in terms of Councillor Carroll's question. Just in terms of the aspect of anti-racism, obviously Councillor Carroll and the group will understand that it's part of the Welsh Government programme that there is an All Wales Anti-Racism Action Plan that we will be required to respond to. But more broadly, and not being specific in terms of any particular ideologies, protected characteristics and how we treat our staff from an inclusivity perspective and a respect perspective, and allowing our staff to be authentically themselves and comfortable within their workplace was very strongly rooted in our staff feedback. And that is a priority of ours, and just to ensure that all of our staff feel welcome and included, and that is the emphasis behind the people strategy itself. And it, as I say, Councillor Carroll, it was strongly rooted in staff feedback that was important to our staff.
Thank you very much, Tracy. Councillor Carroll, you still got your hand up. Are you wanting to ask another question? Yeah.
Yes, it was just in relation to that. It's specifically because that commitment is included within this report as to why I raised it, and I don't think that commitment should be here in light of what that ideology amounts to in practice. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think that there's any legal requirement to pursue or embed this ideology, and if there is such a requirement, I would urge this authority to make representations to those who have imposed that requirement to remove it.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Councillor Burnett, you've got your hand up. Would you like to come in, please, Leader? Thank you.
Yeah, so I would, Chair, just to provide a little bit of clarification, and there was discussion, Tracy raised the whole point that this had widespread consultation. It had consultation amongst our staff networks, because our staff are not unidimensional. And there were things that actually were hugely important to them. And I think it might be an idea that rather than we debate minute details of the strategy, that we do have, don't we? We do have member briefings on different topics, and I don't think we've ever had a briefing from our staff networks as to how they feel about working for the council, what things can make a difference, and why they felt so important about this. And so they felt that this was so important, you know, actually feeling that they are welcome in their place of work, and that people that we support in our communities feel welcome, because we are aware of how to treat them appropriately. So I can't make recommendations, but I just wondered whether or not a session talking to GlamAble and diverse networks actually might be of use, and maybe also some of our schools that have done some very successful work on anti-racism. So I'll leave it there. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Leader. I think that's a really good suggestion. And I think, seeing as we are talking about something that through the consultation process the staff have said that they want, I think it would be helpful for us members, and also for Councillor Carroll, who's raised this this concern that he hears from the staff on this matter. So I think that I would be very happy to support that recommendation. Thank you. Councillor Selby, would you like to come in?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just want to welcome, thank you, Tracy, for taking us through this. And I just want to say that I very much welcome the commitment in the people strategy that we are aiming for a workforce that reflects the diversity of our very rich community here in the Vale, and that we're making a commitment within the people strategy to ensure that every individual feels seen, valued and supported, and clearly ensuring that we're doing all we can to embed an anti-racist approach is absolutely critical as part of that. We have to listen to our staff. We have to ensure that they feel seen and they feel valued, and taking that anti-racist approach, in my view, is an absolutely critical part of that. So I'm really glad to see that within the strategy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lloyd-Selby. Councillor Carroll, would you like to wait until Councillor Goodjohn has had her say, because you've asked a few questions? Is that okay with you?
Yes, that's absolutely fine.
That's great. Thank you. Please come in, Councillor Goodjohn.
Thank you, Chair. I would just, I'd like to second Councillor Lloyd-Selby on what she said, and I would be very interested in hearing from our staff and the networks. Very interested in hearing their point of view. I'm also, thank you very much for the report. I'm interested in, I know you said that there was going to be meetings to do with staff who aren't like on computers, like the waste team and our employees who are out there in the field more, and how they might be included. I'm just wondering if you have any ideas prior to the meetings how they could be included and be reached and feel connected, to have all the information and help and support they need.
Thank you, Councillor Goodjohn. Tracy, would you like to come? Yeah, she's here.
Hey, yeah, thank you, Councillor Goodjohn. No, I don't have all the answers. Is the honest perspective from it? We've got some thoughts and some thoughts in discussion with the Director of Housing and Environment, but our hope is that we will hold some meetings across the coming months where we actively engage in our staff to ask them the question how they would like us to engage with them. It's all well and good, I suppose, us having some thoughts on our approaches that we wish to take, but if actually that doesn't work with those staff members, it wouldn't be fruitful. So our intention is to ask those staff groups and to seek to do that via our staff engagement channels effectively, so through some champions that we hope to get from those engagement channels, and actively ask them, actually, how would you like us to correspond with you? We've also had some discussions with our trade union colleagues in those space and how we can collaboratively work together to achieve that as well, in terms of what's important to them and what the style of communication is, and also the topics of communication. So no set answers, but some thoughts, I suppose, Councillor Goodjohn, moving forward, if that's helpful.
That's really helpful. Thank you, Tracy. I think it's really important that we get their perspective, and I like your approach to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Goodjohn. Thank you, Tracy. Councillor Wood, would you like to come in and ask a question, please? You have Thank you.
I would be curious to see what is actually entailed in some of this training for anti-racism. Having worked in organisations big and small, multicultural and less multicultural, some of them exceedingly multicultural, with everybody from probably 20 different countries. I'm rather curious to see what this training would entail. Is it possible we could be forwarded some of the training materials? Because I'm curious what it entails. Because I understand the concept of attempting to become anti-racist as an organisation. It just, rather shocks me that we perceive that within the organisation we have such a massive problem with racism. Is it feasible I could get some of the, or the committee could be presented with some of the training materials to see? And then actual copy of the anti-racism action plan from the Welsh Government is going to be implemented?
Thank you, Councillor. Tracy, please come in.
Yes, absolutely, Councillor Wood. I'd be happy to share some of that information with you or with the group, absolutely.
Thanks very much. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Councillor Wood. And I think for all of us, it will be really helpful to hear from our employees on this matter. I think, as the leader has suggested, and so we will look to put that in place. Councillor Carroll, are you coming back in with another question? And by all means, please do.
Yes, please, Chair. It's just to touch on the diversity networks. Actually, the recommendation that's been proposed. I mean, I personally don't support the idea of the authority having these. I note they're stipulated on page 10 of the report that's under the principle of embedding EDI within the council. I don't think this is something that the council should be doing. I'm conscious that this is we're often told that this is done in the name of sort of the Equality Act or specific legislation. But with regard to the diversity networks, is there a specific provision in legislation that mandates the council to introduce these? And if so, could I please be directed to it?
Thank you, Councillor Carroll, for your question there. Tracy, so in terms of diversity, is there some legislation that we're following? Can we give some advice to Councillor Carroll, please? Thank you.
Sorry, forgot to press my speech button then. Yeah, of course, I'll try as best as I can, Councillor Prothero. So as I've said before, and I'll firmly stand by, this was rooted very strongly in our staff feedback. It's good practice to have our staff networks. It's very common practice as well, both in a commercial and in a public sector, to have those types of staff networks that are able to feed it in. From a legal perspective, there is the equality law, which talks about protected characteristics, and from that perspective, those groups would have certain protections in that sense. And I'm happy to share that with Councillor Carroll if he would be interested in. Certainly, there would be those legal requirements from protected characteristic perspective. That includes both our global majority and individuals who may be from a disability group or from age, sex, gender, etc. So it's both good practice, strongly rooted in staff feedback, strongly rooted in some of the reports that we've seen of recent, such as the ADSS Cymru report, which talks about our practices across Wales from a social care perspective. And there's a requirement in law from a protected characteristic perspective also. I hope that kind of touches upon all aspects that are being sought here, Councillor Carroll.
I mean, I'm grateful for that, Tracy, but the question wasn't with regard to protected characteristics. I'm conscious that they're stipulated within the Equality Act. The question was whether there was any specific legislation that mandated that the authority either needed to embed anti-racism within the organisation, or whether it needed to embed DEI principles within the organisation, or whether we had a legal requirement to create these diversity networks. The reason I ask that is because obviously the authority will have to comply with any legal requirements that are bestowed upon it. I mean, if there are legal requirements that mandate the authority to do these things, I would strongly suggest that the authority makes representations either to the UK government or the Welsh government, whoever was responsible for imposing them, to say that we want them changed. But if there isn't a legal requirement to implement or impose these things, then that is very much a policy decision. So I think it's important that it's clear as to whether this is a legal requirement or whether it's a policy decision taken by this authority.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. I believe Tracy has already said that she'll send you all the information she has on that. Councillor Burnett, would you like to come in now, Leader, or shall we let Councillor Lovelock-Edwards speak? Because I think she's
if you want to let Councillor Lovelock-Edwards, I just wanted to make some comments in response to Councillor Carroll.
Thank you. Councillor Lovelock-Edwards, do you want to come in now? Thank you.
Sorry, Chair, can you hear me now? Yeah?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you hear me? Thank you. I'm just a bit concerned. Thank you, Reece. I'm just a bit concerned at the direction of travel because I fear that Councillor Carroll has taken us down a path that is moving us away from the essence of this report, which is a people strategy. This is not a personal opinion or an ideological strategy. This is around people, and it's been shaped and directed and led by the people that matter, who are the employees of this authority. So I think we need to be mindful of that and set aside our own personal opinions. In terms of policy, I'm sure Councillor Carroll has been in situ in this local authority far longer than I to be aware that this is a policy position that has been shaped again by the very people who sort of want to be heard, want to be seen, and to sort of refer back to Councillor Lloyd Selby's comment that we have an obligation to ensure that every employee is given that opportunity to feel and be heard. And by the very nature of the groups and the networks that have been set up, they are self-organised, self-managed, because they are needed by the very people that they reflect. And I think we need to be very much aware that the people strategy document that Tracy is presenting on behalf of the authority has been shaped, is being led, and will be scrutinised by employees of the council. So we are sort of have an obligation to fulfil their wants and needs and what is right and correct, and doing the decent thing for them. And that's all I wanted to say on that matter, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Lovelock-Edwards. Leader, would you like to come in now, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I very much concur with what Councillor Lovelock-Edwards said, and I think she had it in a nutshell. It was. I reiterate that if there are any concerns by any committee members, then there ought to be a briefing session. There ought to be an opportunity for members to hear what this strategy means to them. I mean, each section, it talks about the difference this will make, the difference we see this making. And that's based on the difference that our staff tell us it will make. And to suggest that we only do things because it's law, not because it's the right thing to do, is sad, isn't it? We want to be really good employers. We want to support our staff, and we want to support our staff to be the best they possibly can. This is what they've told us that will help them to be that. I'm really proud to have my name on the front of this report. I think if anybody wants to have a discussion about specifics, then have a briefing from our staff and then we can discuss it again. But for now, I think it's a super piece of work, and I think Tracy and her team are to be congratulated. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Carroll, if you're going to repeat what you've already said, we've already had this. So please, if you have another question, I'm more than happy for you to come in. But I think we have probably exhausted this particular topic. Do you want to ask another question?
Yeah, it's a separate question. How many consultation responses were received?
Thank you. Tracy, can you come in with how many consultation responses? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor Carroll. It's really difficult for me to put that in a figure format, and I'll just explain the reason why. So we did this in a number of different methods. So it included me attending certain groups to allow their feedback, and what I didn't do, and forgive me, is record all of the numbers that were attending in each of those groups. So for instance, I attended the Youth Council, I attended the Head Teacher Steering Group meeting, we attended the JCF meetings, and all of those have a number of different participants. So and all of those contributed verbally, as we are doing over the this screen now. So I'm very happy to give you some broad data to just include some of the numbers that are involved in each of those committees, but I'm really sorry I can't give you a static figure, if that makes sense.
So were all staff consulted on this then?
Sorry, Councillor Carroll, I missed that bit. Did you say were all staff consulted on this?
Yes.
Yeah, it has been shared right across in terms of our staff networks, our DMT groups, our youth councils, our diversity and staff networks, our partnership groups, and we've asked each of our DMT heads of service to share it with their staff. So we have asked for that, and we have asked for that feedback.
So was there a formal consultation then to which all staff could contribute?
Yeah, and we also invited that through the staff networks also, Councillor Carroll, if that helps.
But was there because are all staff members in staff networks then? I'm just...
No.
Because it's the impression that's been given, you see, Tracy, is that this was shaped by the council's staff. And so the concern I have with that is that it creates the impression that all staff were consulted and had equal input into it. But if it was formed on the basis of certain networks being either invited to partake in focus groups, or if certain directors were asked to provide feedback on behalf of what they may have perceived the views of their directorates to be, it doesn't necessarily follow that the responses that you received represent the views of all staff. And I think it's important that we make clear which groups were consulted. And I don't think it presents a fair reflection if it's said that this was shaped by staff, if it wasn't an open consultation with all staff, if only certain sort of groups or networks were consulted.
Sorry, I was just going to come back in on this one. Councillor Carroll, I just need to make you aware, and we have had this conversation before. You come through the chair, otherwise there's no point in me being here, and this isn't a cross-examination, okay? It says that they, through the consultation process, and it actually says in that appendix who they consulted with and the groups that they've consulted with. So I'm not entirely sure what point you're coming to or what point you're trying to make on this one. So can we just, for clarity, you come through the chair and you ask your question and you don't cross-examine the officer. Is that okay? Please.
I'm more than happy to come through the chair. I do think it's important that follow-up questions are allowed, because
they are allowed, and you know they are allowed, because I have never not let you have follow-up questions. But I'm not sure where you're going with this one. You've asked a question. She's explained that it's gone through a number of the groups, and it sounds to me as if they've actually had opportunity to put their input in if they wanted to. So where are we going with this question, is all I'm asking.
My question is, were all staff given input into this consultation, or was it select networks that were consulted?
Thank you. And has Tracy given you an answer?
I still haven't, it's still not clear to me. I'll watch the recording back, but it still isn't clear to me whether all staff were consulted or whether specific networks were consulted.
Okay, thank
Because
you.
if it's the latter, I don't think it's fair to say that this was formed off the back of the views of staff.
Right, okay, that's fine. Can we now go on to a next question? Otherwise, I think we're going to just be stuck here for forever. There were a few questions that I wanted to ask, if that's okay, Tracy. And I know we've probably exhausted this particular agenda item. I think it's really good to see that we've got the Change Leadership Programme and that we're focusing on upskilling all of our leaders. We're looking at digital literacy. And I just wanted to ask, we are in a very changing environment from the work perspective with AI. And I think in the next couple of years, it's going to become a completely different place for people to work in. I'm just wondering if part of that digital literacy is also going to be the use of AI and how things are going to change for everybody in the world of work. Thank you. That's my first question. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, in response to your question around digital literacy, yes, AI will form a significant part of that. We ensured that when we were constructing the people strategy that we also were cognizant of the digital strategy that is already available. A significant part of that is AI. We've had a number of conversations from a transformation perspective around AI, and we will ensure that that is very much part of our people strategy, very much part of our leadership development programme and broader staff development programme. And we are continuing to work in that ethos currently.
Thank you, Tracy. My next question then is about the flexible pathways and talent mobility. That sounds really interesting to me. I've worked in public sector organisations for 30 years, and I can say, as I think one of the senior members from SLT in the consultation had commented on, you tend to have square pegs in round holes, and that happens everywhere. And I think if we get to the point where we can exploit all of the skills and all of the talents and experience that staff have, even if it means it takes them into a different direction through the organisation, then that's for the good. So I'm really interested to know, how might this work in practice? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I suppose that is a challenging question. We are very aware that we ordinarily, through sort of leadership channels and also in terms of progress channels, that actually people consider a way of working in which involves vertical career opportunities. And what we're saying in this is actually we want to open up pathways for individuals to be able to move from one profession or one area to another. We've got some really strong evidenced examples of where that works very well currently. So we look at our succession plans and we talk to our staff in terms of what their desires and expectations are, and also what the requirements are from a skills perspective from an organisation moving forward. And as a direct result of that, we've seen lateral movement very recently and over the last couple of years, where we've got real key skills in areas such as change management and strategic approaches to change management, where we've seen key individuals that may have moved, for example, from our benefits teams to our social care teams to take change management approaches across that. Our intention in this strategy is to conduct a skills mapping exercise to look at the future requirements from an organisational perspective, identify where we may have any gaps, and map that across to our succession planning opportunities to look to see where we've got individuals perhaps with key skills that can work transformationally laterally across a number of different professions, and also how we can engage our younger generations in that through our apprenticeship schemes and our work that our youth service are doing in the space with pre-apprenticeship schemes. So there are a number of different opportunities for us to explore this. It is explorational, so we don't have any set pathways that we've established as yet. Our intention is over the 4-year term to do that through the skills mapping exercise.
Thank you. That's great. And you touched upon my very last question. And this is probably what I really do believe this is terribly important. So that's your accessible career pathways for those most vulnerable. And we know, don't we? We can put an awful lot of money into our deprived communities. We can put money into youth services. We can put money into play parks. We can do all of this. But the way we support people out of poverty is through that opportunity. And so, you know, I 100% think this is the really, really important work. And I would love to know how this is going to work, how we're going to expand these entry-level supported jobs and what that will look like, and what plans we have for collaboration with our regional partners. It's a really exciting piece of work, but this is tremendously important for me. And I think if you have that ability to develop your workforce through your communities and giving those people opportunities, it becomes them, doesn't it? It becomes just more important, if anything, that the work that we do, which is serving our communities, they will come back to us. I think it's great. So I don't know if it's too early yet for you to share anything about how this might look, but I would really like to see. Thank you.
At the behest of sounding too passionate in this space, Chair, I hope perhaps there's an opportunity for me to just be a little bit indulgent. So we don't have any established pathways on it, but again, we've had quite a number of conversations with key personnel, which includes those that are working in our planning space from an economic regeneration perspective, to our youth service teams that are working in the community on developing pre-apprenticeship pathways for those whose engagement within a school setting is perhaps not where we would wish it to be. So there's a number of approaches that we're looking at. We're looking at our quick starter scheme. We're looking at our pre-apprenticeship schemes. We're also looking at simple changes that we could make to roles, job descriptions, hours of work, etc., that would be more attractive, more engaging for those that are within our communities. We've seen some real successes from that of late, both in terms of schools and also from a corporate perspective. So, for instance, a couple of our schools have changed the approaches to how they're recruiting LSAs and changes in the hours of work that they're offering LSAs. As a direct result, we're getting higher numbers that are coming through in terms of those that are expressing an interest or applying for those roles, higher numbers that are within the local community itself, and therefore we're managing to recruit individuals on smaller hours that are allowing those individuals the opportunity to gain gainful employment. We've also linked in with a number of key strategic partners, including ITAC, to look at how we can continue to support our younger generations in gainful employment within both professional space and in terms of developing their knowledge and experience within public sector workforce. So it is explorational. I'm quite happy to come to this group moving forward to just explain how we continue to develop that and the traction and the outputs that we're getting from it. But it's something that within our team, within the wider organisation, that we're really passionate about developing.
Thank you, Tracy. Well, I share your passion on that front as well. So that's really good to hear. Councillor Sue Lloyd-Selby, please come in. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. A final question from me, if I may, Tracy. As somebody who's new to the committee, I just want to check my understanding in terms of the approach that's being taken going forward. So the report references things like strong employment, engagement survey results. It talks about a continuous conversation with staff. So over the next 4 years, is the approach going to be iterative? So in terms of that continuous staff engagement, they will be continuing to inform the approach that's being taken to ensure that the pupil strategy reflects what our staff are telling us. I just want to check my understanding on that. Thank you.
Are you happy for me to come in, Chair?
Yes, please do.
Yeah.
Thank you.
In response to your question, Councillor Lloyd-Selby, yes, we intend it to be iterative. So you will see the list in Appendix 3 of those that we did consult with. Our intention is to continue to have that level of consultation. So purely reflecting in terms of staff survey, we had our staff survey results last year. We will reiterate that staff survey. We'll go back out with what we've done during that time, and we'll ask for further feedback. In the interim periods, we are asking all of our DMTs and heads of service to engage with the results of that engagement, and to actively look at how they can improve some of the scores that perhaps weren't where we would want them to be, or where there's opportunity for improvement. And as I've described prior in this meeting, we are looking at how we can engage with groups that perhaps we're not engaging with in the way in which we wish to do. So we do recognise, Councillor Lloyd-Selby, that there are groups that perhaps we're not getting the feedback from that we would like to, and our intention is to ask them how they would like us to engage with them, in the hope that we would get further engagement from those groups moving forward. Again, then, from our partnership organisations, we will continue to engage with them to ask for their feedback in terms of how they're seeing the people strategy operate from the feedback that they gave. And we'll also look to that from our school's perspective in terms of the groups like the head teacher steering group, etc. So we fully intend for it to be an iterative and evolving process. And through our people board, we will measure and track what that looks like, warts and all. So, you know, where we've managed to achieve some traction, and perhaps where things are slower than we anticipated it being.
Thank you. Just to say that that's really important, isn't it? Because it ensures that the people strategy is very much reflective of what our staff are telling us. And as a good employee that wants to value our staff and listen to them and ensure that all our staff feel heard, that approach is absolutely vital, and we can all rest assured in that it's reflective of our values as a council. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Councillor Lloyd-Selby there. Do we have anybody else then on this particular report? I think we've probably had a very robust debate on it. I can't see any other hands. Okay, I'm going to swiftly move then to the recommendations. So the report was considered by committee tonight. That's what we've all done. There's respectfully a couple of asks which a number of members have put forward. One, I think Councillor Wood wanted to see a little bit on our anti-racism training, and also the anti-racism action plan that Welsh Government asks us to comply with. So if that could go to Councillor Wood, that would be great. Thank you, Tracy. I think also we've talked a little bit about having a briefing session for all of our members, I think, on anti-racism. I think that will be a good move for all of us, I think, to appreciate that one. And I think also, and this was from right at the beginning, we would like to have you back. If you could come back in March with an update on how things are going, I think that would be really helpful to share the progress and performance against the plan. So if everybody's happy with that, Councillor Johnson, have I got everything you asked for?
Dwi'n hapus I gytuno Cynghorydd Porthwr on just a ran
think we've lost Councillor Johnson. No, he's back. I don't know if I lost you or if you lost me then.
Falle os ti'n medru cael y cyfieithiad ar y sgrin, dwi'n gwybod. O'n i'n cytuno ar ran gofyn i Tracy dod nôl at o'n mis Mawrth, ond oeddwn ni hefyd yn gofyn i'r gwybodaeth roedd Cynghorydd Wood yn gofyn amdan i gael ei cylchredeg i aelodau i gyd o'r Pwyllgor, os mae hynny'n iawn. Diolch.
Yes, for clarity, that's absolutely fine. Thank you. Yes, Tracy. So if you could make sure that everybody gets a copy of the anti-racism training and also the anti-racism action plan, that would be great. Thank you ever so much. And we would love to see you again in March if that's okay. Right, can we have hand to move to the next agenda item, please, everybody? Thank you, Councillor Goodjohn, and thank you, Councillor Goodjohn. Right then, so if we move swiftly on then to agenda item 6, this is the sickness absent report for the last quarter. I think this is a reference from Cabinet from the 28th of May. Do we have Laith to do this, or Tracy, is it back to you? No, we do have Laith.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, good evening. Yeah, thank you, Chair. So yeah, I'll move swiftly on to the report. As you say, what I'll do, as you've had a lot of the data here already, I'll just provide a brief overview of some of the issues arising from the Q4 sickness absence report, which covers the period April 2025 up to March 2026, so the full sort of financial year of absence. You'll note that our final outturn figure was 10.15 FTE days lost. And surprisingly, again, I think we had to check this data a few times. It was exactly the same outturn figure as the previous year's data for 2024-25, even to 2 decimal places, which was quite unusual. But what that does show is a slight reduction in the corporate absence sort of figure, but a slight, again, increase in the school's absence figure. Hence, obviously, the overall figure remained the same. However, this is still below the target figure of 10.75 for the whole council, including schools. I think, again, as in previous years, we've explained that long-term absence remains the main sort of issue surrounding sort of our data. It does, though, only account at this present time of 66% of our absence rates. That's actually reduced quite significantly, where we used to be around the 73% of absence was long-term. So we're slowly bringing that long-term absence sort of down, which again is a sort of good position from the council perspective and trying to keep that long-term absence cases under review. Obviously, we still continue to implement a number of sort of well-being and occupational health and absence management measures, and again to support staff through their sort of attendance, as well as any recovery through absence as well. Again, I think it's worth noting again, as stated by Councillor Johnson earlier in the previous report, that schools, a large proportion of the workforce, and now account for approximately 52% of our FTE figures for schools. So again, any fluctuations in absence for schools does have a slightly sort of bigger impact in the council-wide figure. Just a number of sort of points around our sort of directorate sort of performance. The 2 main areas in terms of this directorates that have the highest absence levels, although we appreciate we've got environment and housing, running at 11.99 FTE days lost, and social services running at 13.8. Again, I think it's just worth putting that into perspective, because the previous year's data for environment and housing was 12.8. So again, they've had a reduction. And again, for social services, previous years was 15.6 FTE days lost. So again, both had a significant reduction and both under target for their directorates. As we mentioned, schools recorded just literally touch under 9 FT days lost, which again a slight increase on last year's figure. Main causes of absence are still around infections, totaling around 15% of absence rates. Non-work related stress is 12.1%, and then 10.1% for operations recovery and musculoskeletal sort of conditions as well. So those are our main sort of areas of sort of sickness in those areas. And just wanted again just to finally sort of highlight, I suppose, a number of the actions that we're trying to do to manage absence across the organisation. We've tried to enhance a lot of the HR absence dashboards that we share with SLT colleagues and managers, giving them almost real-time sort of data around absence management through our Oracle Fusion system. Again, trying to increase case management support with support from our HR business partner teams, and they're doing a lot of work around, again, managing those long-term absence cases to support the managers as well as the sort of employees. We're still obviously undertaking a number of occupational health referrals, trying to complete those in a timely manner to enable staff to get the support they need. Waiting list currently is around the 4 to 5 week sort of period. So again, it's just trying to manage that process to get those referrals through, seen, and make sure we're managing again any potentially staff that have do not attend or no shows, and trying to manage that process as well. Again, I think we've heard that previously that we have some really excellent support around counselling and well-being. And in fact, actually, I was having a chat with our occupational health sort of nurse sort of earlier today, and actually they work sometimes along other authorities and public sector organisations, and they commented that our specific counselling and support is actually one of the best they work with as part of other organisations, which is really good to hear, and good to again to see that support being offered to staff. And again, we offer obviously manager training, and we're also doing a lot more work with support from our health and safety team around stress risk assessments, especially where we find staff suffering with stress, whether that's work or non-work related, that we provide again support for them as needed, and again support for managers who are trying to again deal with staff in those sort of stressful sort of situations. And again, just wanted to highlight, going back a little bit further to the 2024-25 data, where we've now got the full council data across Wales, where we had, we're in I think the third best position of the authorities in Wales in terms of the 2024-25 sickness rates, and ending 25-26 with a similar figure of approximately 10.2 days. That should give us again a good position within other authorities, where we're seeing sometimes increases in absence rather than us who stayed very stable. Again, just wanted to highlight a few of the issues around the report, but again, I'm happy to take any questions from members. Thank you.
Thank you, Laith. As you say, that's quite a feat to get exactly the same average working days lost as last year, and I know you double checked it. And yes, it's not a bad position to be in terms of the league tables of only the third least number of days lost out of all of the local authorities. So that's a good point. Before I bring anybody in, I just want to ask you for clarity. I know we've talked about this before, but it will be something that people will want to know again. So that undisclosed category that worries me somewhat. I know it's to do with the way that you're changing how you report, but there are quite differences in the way that directorates are using it. When we looked at that at the top 5 list, there are some where it's not appearing at all, and then one, especially I think with the schools, where it's up there. So would you just explain again for us why we're in that sort of progressing stage, and exactly why that is happening? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And I'm happy to explain sort of that. You're quite right. There is obviously the category of undisclosed, and that is a figure that obviously it is actually reducing, but it's something that we're conscious that it's still there. When you're aware from a previous sort of scrutiny meetings that we changed a lot of the categories, and now we're reporting on much wider categories and information that again will be really useful to manage some of the sickness cases and information that we have. Now, what we had to do from previous years was move anyone that was on an other category to the undisclosed category, just so we could remove other from the system, so that couldn't be used. But appreciate now, because we've got an undisclosed section, that is obviously available to be used. But I would say a lot of that data, because we're looking at the whole year from 2025 to 2026, a lot of that data relates to the first part of the sort of financial year. So we are seeing a reducing figure. So I'm hopeful that when we get to the next 6 months sort of report and the final year for this year, we'll see a marked sort of reduction in undisclosed. And where we do find undisclosed being used incorrectly, we do end up changing those categories so it does show in the correct reason. But we will be doing some more work to try and reduce that figure further.
Thank you, Laith. And that probably explains a little bit why they seem to be with the long-term absences. Because I was thinking, logically, you would definitely know if somebody's been off for a while, why, and if you could help them, then you would. But that would explain it. Thank you for just clarifying. Councillor Johnson, would you like to come in and ask a question? Thank you.
Diolch yn fawr, Cadeirydd, a diolch yn fawr I Leith am y cyflwyniad. A chydig o bwyntiau, a sawl un mae Leith neu Cynghorydd Brodor wedi cyfeirio at eisoes, ond jyst I ailadrodd i'r raddau. Dwi wedi fflagio fyny gyda Leith rhywbeth od yn y todlen A, sef y ffaith mae yn ystod a gyfer un o'r adrannau sef Policy and Business Transformation yn yr adran Adnoddau. Does dim salwch o gwbl yn ystod y flwyddyn 25-26 gweitha mae yna 40 o bobl yn gweithio yn y FTE. So dwi eisiau wedi gofyn Leith am hyn, felly os mae'n gallu esbonio pam mae hyn yn ymddangos, bydd hwn yn gwerthfawrogi jyst ar gyfer y record. Mae yn diddorol nodi fel wnaeth Leith sôn am fod ni yn trydydd ar draws Gymru ar gyfer yr ystadegau i'r blwyddyn gynt, sef 24-25. Felly mae'n ni gallu edrych at yr ystadegau dros sawl blwyddyn ac yn gallu darogan bod ni'n rhywle tebyg, a mae hwn wrth gwrs yn peth da, gan bod yn amlwg y pethau, yr sefydliad yn mwy amlwg I gymharu yw awdurdodau lleol eraill ar draws Cymru o'r maint canolig o leiaf, achos yn amlwg mae rai o'r awdurdodau llai yn gallu cael amrywiaeth. Mae nifer o ffigurau anhysbys, fel dyrodd Cynghorydd Brodor yn achosi pryder. Mae yna dealltwriaeth am hyn, ond gan bod mewn un o'r adrannau llai gyda ni, sef dysgu y sgiliau, mae'n edrych yn ryfedd I weld hyn fel yr achos mwyaf ar gyfer Salwch a dyddiau I ffwrdd o'r gwaith. Ond gobeithio fydd hwn yn wahanol yn y dyfodol ar ôl I hyn mynd trwy'r system yn y blwyddyn I ddod. Un peth arall jyst dwi'n codi o ran Trefniadau gyda'r ystadegau yma yw jyst un waith yn nawr ac yn y man, dwi'n poeni am y nifer o bobl sy'n salwch. So, os mae'n achosion isel mewn rai adrannau llai a'i maint, ydy e'n amlwg pwys i bod un unigolyn yn sâl na 'di bod i ffwrdd am gyfnod hir. Wi jyst yn poeni am hyn gafod nes i edrych at un adran a doedd na ddim salwch ar gyfer yr achos yna yn y blynyddoedd blaenorol, ond mae nifer uchel ar gyfer y blwyddyn yma dan sylw. Felly dwi jyst yn poeni os mae hyn yn uchel oherwydd un person sy'n sâl, ac os mae hyn yn cael effaith ar ran diogelu data ac yn y blaen. Felly dwi'n jyst yn poeni i raddau am y cydbwysedd rhwng trylwyddeb o'r data a diogelu data personol ein staff ni. Diolchgar am unrhyw sylwadau gan leith ar y 2 pwynt penodol, un am lle mae un adran yn datgelu dim salwch o gwbl, ac un lle mae ar ran ffindio'r cydbwysedd yn y rhwng trylwyddeb i ni a diogelu data personol. Diolch.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Very good points. Leith, can you come back in on those ones? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Happy to, Chair. And yes, thank you, Councillor Johnson, and appreciate the spotting of the zero sort of data for performance and team as well. And I'll do my best to try and explain the reasons why. The data for the full year, and actually let's go back 6 months, because you'll notice that the previous 6-month report had absence within the policy and business transformation team. So as you're saying, it probably looks odd that this, taking the whole year's data, there's no absence. What happened partway through the year is that the C1V team that sat within policy and business transformation actually moved out and were transferred into the digital team. So you got a huge chunk of staff that moved from one team to another. And on this occasion, actually, all the sickness within C1V moved to digital, which left approximately 20 FTE staff within the performance team, which actually at the data we have, and we checked again this evening, that didn't have any sickness during that year. What we have to be mindful of is, rather than running 2 separate sickness reports and say we do the first 6 months, park that, and then run the second 6 months, when we run the final report for the year, we actually run it again for the whole financial year, just to make sure that we haven't missed any changes or backdated sort of sickness things, and things change, so we run it for the whole year. What the system does, it always thinks that C1V were always within the digital team, so all that sickness moved from April to March. At the same time, of course, then we've got the data is based on average FTE figures. So if you take policy and business transformation, in April they had approximately 60 FTEs. At the end of the March figure, we had 20 FTEs, which gave them an average of 40 FTEs for the year. So we're almost having to, I don't like to use the word manipulate the figures, but that's how the data works within, to keep the FTE figures consistent. And the same with digital. They started the year with approximately 40 FTEs and ended the year with around 80 sort of FTEs, giving them an average. Actually, we got an average of 62. Let's see, 14, 80. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, an average of 62 FTEs. So we're fluctuating the FTE figures, but the whole sickness is moving. But that's the way the data works. But appreciate you spotting that. And what I suppose we can do in the future is highlight some of those sort of anomalies, and possibly note in the report that where we have big structural changes, again, partway through the year, we can make reference to that. So it makes that clear. I always like seeing big restructures happen on the 1st of April, but that's just me, and it should help with statistics. But that this time we had to move a huge chunk of staff over partway through the year, hence the difference. And at the same time, again, your question around sort of data, yes, you're quite right. We're very mindful of some of the data around some of the small figures around what we're reporting. Now, of course, in this report, we're not reporting obviously individuals or you know, that people can be identified. But you're quite right again that sometimes obviously sickness behind the scenes could be, as you say, a number of long-term cases that can add up quite a few number of FTE days lost to, at the same time, a number of sort of short-term cases for other individuals. So it does fluctuate, and it fluctuates, you know, again, partly through the year as well as for this report. So it is really difficult. I think one of the pages we do show number of absences versus days lost on Appendix B. But again, that's just to keep a track of, you know, how many cases and stuff we're actually sort of managing within the teams. Hopefully that's answered some of your questions. Thank you, Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, diolch, Leith.
Thank you, Leith. Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Wood, would you like to come in now, please? Thank you.
Yes, good evening, Chair. Good evening, Leith. I'm just curious about the target setting. Mathematically, how that number gets arrived at, because it all seems we have the same statistical output, and yet somehow I don't know what the target actually means. Is it what we're aiming for, or is that what we are predicting from the mathematics from the previous few years? Because I can't see any rhyme or reason to the maths of it. If you could sort that out, if you could explain that to me, I'd be much appreciative.
Thank you, Councillor Wood. Yeah, yes, that's a good one, Leith. What are the mathematics between each of these targets for average working days lost for each directorate? Because they're different, aren't they? So I think that'd be an interesting thing to help us explain. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Wood. You're right. There is an element of historic sort of data. I've been looking at sickness stats for a long time, probably too long than I can remember. And I think there's an element of, we're aware that some of the directorates we work with have large number of frontline sort of workers. They're in those roles that we're aware that it's likely that they're likely to suffer more absence, whether that's short term, long term, or musculoskeletal other issues. And you're right. So I wouldn't like to say it's a target. I wouldn't like to say that, well, actually we should be hitting 10.75. I'm a bit disappointed we hit 10.15 at the end of the year, but I think it's something that the directorates like to have some option, I suppose, or aim to say, well, actually we shouldn't be hitting 15, 16, 17 FTE days lost. That's not a good situation. So, you know, again, you know, from a social services perspective, you know, again, looking at historic data, that we've always been around the sort of 15, 16 FTE days lost, and actually then coming out at 13.8 is actually a really, really positive picture for our social care team. And sometimes you're quite right again that, you know, we have fluctuations in FTE figures throughout the year. We have, as we've seen now, we have departments that move around, so sometimes those figures fluctuate. And again, what we're trying to do also is look at the Wales-wide figure, because you looked at the stats, haven't we, that we've seen around the figures around Wales, and probably average FTE, when you look at the best figure around 9 FTE days lost to the council that's probably hit 12, 13, 14 FTE days lost. We know probably around 12 FTE days lost from a Wales-wide local authority perspective is probably about average. So from our perspective, again, we're probably thinking, well, actually, we can do a bit better than that. We can probably hit, you know, like we've done, you know, 10.7 or lower. So, yeah, whether I've answered that question, but I think it's a bit
I'm just
work,
so it's an
towards.
average of historic figures. Is that basically what
Yeah.
it is? Running back beyond the initial the 2-year measure that we have there, 23,
Oh,
24,
it is.
25,
Yes,
25.
I probably got going back since I started actually with the Vale, probably about
Right.
7-8 years ago. But at the same time, of course, we do look at trying to amend those almost every year just to see whether we can tweak any. Because if a department's had an improving picture, well, let's keep them at that lower figure, and maybe we'll increase someone else's who has struggled to hit that target figure to make it a little bit fair for them. So we do try and review that as well.
I mean, of course, a couple of long-term absences, which are serious, can skew the total lost days in any department. I understand that. I was just curious how the average, how the annual target, which is not a nice way to put it, because nobody wishes anybody to get sick, and how that's used managerially. Is it reported? Is it fed back to management at the end of the year to say, I'm not sure what you would say, but congratulations, nobody in your department got sick this year. I mean, it is what it is. But of course, when we present this as a target, it's a little bit, maybe we should change the language. I mean, it's one of those things, isn't it? That I was like, what does that actually mean? So if it's a running average going back several years, that gives it a lot more meaning to me. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, maybe we could change the language and rather than target figure something else. But
historic
but,
average or something like this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you're quite right. When you have smaller departments with fewer FTEs and they have a long-term absence case, then straight away their sickness averages go up and there's nothing we can do. We do present to SLT on a quarterly basis as well anyway, these figures, so they're kept up to date with the absence figures quarterly, but obviously we present to Scrutiny every 6 months, and managers have monthly reports as well, and they have actually monthly priority reports. They're specifically told these are your long-term absence cases, the ones that have just hit the 4 weeks, or ones that are on 1 to 2 months, 3 to 6 months, 6 months plus. So we do a lot of work with getting that data out to the managers as well as the HR business partners, so we can manage those long-term cases. And again, thank the team again for providing that data on a regular basis to the directorates.
Okay. All right. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wood, and thank you, Laith. So not particularly scientific approach, but a bit of a mixed way to help encourage, I suppose, a slight improvement. But okay, that's great. Do we have any other questions on sick absence now? No? That's okay. So thank you very much for that, Laith. I think if we look at the recommendations, they were simply that we consider the report. I think the only substantial recommendation that's come out of it, which is I think from Councillor Johnson, was just that where you have those midterm changes that kind of like skew the data, that you put a footnote on there to help explain why. I think that might be a recommendation for future reports, so that it's just clearer when you have got eagle-eyed councillors looking and they're thinking, well, that doesn't quite look right. So if we can have that recommendation to include that, you include that footnote change when you have got those changes midterm. And if we're happy to move, thank you, Councillor Wood, and thank you, Councillor Goodjohn. Councillor Wood, you still got your hand up. Did you want to say something else, or are you just moving that agenda item on for me?
No, that's fine. That's fine. And I don't mind forwarding that one up.
Thank you ever so much.
Thank you.
Right then, so let's move on to agenda item 7. So this is the report of the Director of Corporate Resources, summer 2026. This is our customer relations update. And I think we've got Nikki John with us tonight to take us through the report. Yes, we do. Welcome, Nikki.
Hi.
you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to provide the further update based on the reports that you've had previously. The timing for this is ideal, as I know that later on you'll be looking at the task and finish group, which is going to be focused around coming in and supporting us with looking at customer relations and ensuring that the voice of the customer is really central to what we're doing. So if it's okay with you, I was just going to share my screen because I've got a few data points that you may want to call up on later, and also just highlight some of the key points in the scrutiny paper, and then just take you through a brief outline of the report. If it's okay to share my screen, thank you. Oh, sorry. Okay, so Contact One Rail remains one of the Council's most important frontline services, and it critically provides a single route into Council services for many residents. It's important, though, to recognise there's still significant work to do to
Sorry to
improve
stop
the
you,
customer...
Nikki. We can't see your screen yet. I just want to check that you've selected the right screen. Do you want to just try sharing it? There we go.
Ah, okay.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Is that working? Yeah, sorry, I do apologise. So however, it's important to recognise there's some significant work to do to improve the customer experience and reduce the pressures so that we achieve service excellence. The contact centre supports more than sort of 800 different inquiry types. It also supports telecare, out-of-hour services, our wellbeing matters service, and also provides wider administration functions for the organisation. Whilst that integrated model delivers significant strategic value, it's also creating complexity and some level of operational pressure. We continue to see demand levels that challenge our ability to deliver the experience we want our customers to receive. To do that, we'll need to look at what services we offer to the wider council and get a real focus on the resident experience. As I said, our performance has improved recently, but we're definitely not where we want to be. Waiting times do remain higher than we would like during peak periods of peak demand, and there are still occasions where residents experience delays or need to contact the council more than once to resolve an issue. The purpose of the work underway in our improvement programme is simply not just to answer more calls, but to work with service areas across the council to address those underlying causes of demand and use the new call insight we will have to inform service improvement across the council. By identifying proactive behaviours and opportunities for development with service areas, we'll be able to focus our calls on those with the highest needs. We've recently implemented our new telephony platform, and that new tech gives us some significant opportunities to simplify the call handling process, consider new channels, and, as I said earlier, get much deeper insight into the reason for our contacts. We know that our digital services are already making a substantial contribution. Last calendar year, we delivered 190,000 transactions online, and our residents are really satisfied with that averaging a 4.3 out of 5 in terms of their feedback. So our 95 in 5 programme, so respond to 95% of our calls within 5 minutes, has been established and prioritised as part of the reshaping programme, not just as a telephony target, but as an enabler of a focus on customer experience across the organisation. Whilst that ambition of 95 in 5 will improve the resident outcomes, the fundamental objective is to create a more responsive organisation, reduce our avoidable contact, improve communication with our residents, and ensure customers can access the right support at the right time. We've brought the report to Scrutiny to help inform the next phase of the work as we move forward. We're really looking forward to working with councillors to refine and shape the programme, ensuring customer insight, feedback and lived experience remain at the heart of how services are designed and improved. So thank you very much for enabling me to share this report with you, and I really look forward to answering any questions you have.
Thank you very much, Nikki, for that. I think before we get going, I just wanted to ask you a few quick questions. I think the use of an online solution for those who can, and a quick resolution to avoid a phone call being made is absolutely critical. I know you're designing the digital solution around people and our residents, which again is really important. We can get lost in data and numbers, but we have to keep, don't we, bringing it back to who it's for, and that's our people. I'm aware that there are so many things that individuals can report now online, and it's quite easy to do so, but I am not sure how well advertised that is, if we've had a proper comm strategy on making sure everybody knows, and that they get that satisfaction at the point of doing it, so they don't ring you up just to make sure it's gone through or something as bizarre as that. So so my question is, what comms are we going to put in place to make sure that we get people to use the online solution and they know how to, and are we considering in the design of this that they will get that satisfaction at that point, rather so they don't have to ring you, or, you know, if you know what I'm saying. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I think historically we've kept almost going, we should campaign soon, but we'll just do this. I think it's a really important point. Actually, one of my colleagues literally half an hour ago sent me a copy of the new screens for our portal. So when you log into our service reporting, it's kind of advertising some of those services. I think there's that wider piece around making sure that our customers are really clear about what is available, and highlighting that. And our plan is we want to do a little bit more focus over the next sort of 8 weeks, and then we're going to be working with our campaign comms colleagues on a campaign to really raise the awareness across our resident groups. I think in terms of that satisfaction piece, not satisfaction, the awareness and being really, really clear about setting customer expectations. It's a piece of work that we're constantly working on. So we've been, over the last 2 years, we've put somewhere in the region of 130 services online. And we're now going back and looking at what the success rate of those is, because as you said, it's really, really important that it's not just to report, but also to get the updates. And there are times where that process goes in and then our colleagues in other service areas have to update it separately, and that may mean that they don't do that, and that doesn't therefore complete the loop that we had designed. So it's definitely something we're working on continuously, and a lot of the insight that we're starting to gather is showing the importance of that and really highlighting it for our service design team.
Thank you. That's a really helpful response. Councillor Carroll, would you like to ask Nikki a question on this? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Nikki, for the update and the presentation. I'm going to focus my question on response times and action that's being taken to integrate the system so that those inquiries, particularly those that are registered online, can be passed to the relevant directorate in real time, and that action can be taken as and where appropriate. To give an example, in my ward of Landock, parking is a big and serious issue. The reason for that is we have Landock Hospital, a large institution which has its own issues with parking capacity within the community, located within the community. That then leads to pressures on on-street parking capacity within residential areas, and it also leads to people parking in dangerous locations. I'll give an example. At the top of Landock Hill and the junction with Penland Road, we're campaigning as a community to install double yellow lines there so that the council can then take civil parking enforcement action to help address that problem. But obviously, if there is an issue with problem parking or dangerous parking or contravention of any parking restrictions within a given area, when somebody sees it, obviously they will report it. But for enforcement action to be taken, and the council has done good work by investing in mobile camera cars that can travel around, and it doesn't require a warden to visit the area on foot. But to ensure that those camera cars are dispatched to the right areas at the right times requires for the contact centre to pick up the information in real time, pass it to the directorate. Maybe even technologies could be used so that on the basis of inquiries that come in, the camera cards can then be directed where to go through. Perhaps artificial intelligence models or something could be used to help direct that. But my question really is what action is being taken to integrate these systems and use these technologies so that we can optimize outcomes for residents and also ensure that problems are dealt with as quickly as possible. Obviously, the aim should be to address all queries and concerns within as short a time frame as is practical. But as with anything, some inquiries are by their nature more time sensitive than others. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Absolutely. So the vast majority, I'm trying to think of maybe the few exceptions, and I can't really think of any. I think nearly all of our digital processes go straight through to the department. So the contact centre isn't intervening in between that call. It's going, sorry, that digital form, it will go straight in. So we have got like end-to-end processes. So they should be going directly into the service area that they're affecting. In terms of if that's an inbound call, the team, and we need to look at this model, the team immediately process that end-to-end. That makes our call handling a little bit longer, but it does mean that it's action there and then it goes either into a system or where there isn't a relevant system, they're directly emailed immediately. So at the moment, and I will check, Councillor Carroll, but I do not believe that there are any. There may be in social services, but I don't even think that's the case. I don't think there are any cases where it's kind of getting that where it's not going immediately through.
Thank you, Nikki. So to recap then, if it's a parking issue and they report it online, that goes straight through to the parking department. It isn't something that is handled by C1V. That's how it would work if it was an online question about, problem parking.
Correct, yes. And my operational manager is online and is confirming that is the case. Yeah, it's going straight through. Yeah.
So then it's up to the department then to resolve or to get or decide, as Councillor Carroll has said, where to send the parking enforcement cars out and things. Yeah.
And just in terms of that, so a big part of that 95 in 5 programme, and there's a corresponding one regarding our back office processes, is using the data and insight to understand where the delay is happening. So one of the primary uses of AI at the moment, because we are cautious around this, is in insight. So we're able to record all of our calls. So it records all of our calls. It gives a full transcription of the call, but it also gives a summary. And that we've started very recently just started to put into another AI model that then starts to pull those themes out, starts to identify where a customer is not getting the optimal service. And that's the kind of insight that we want to be able to feed through to the service areas and our improvement team to help us design better experiences and understand how we can reduce the failure demands, because we don't want a customer to have to call back. Yeah. Just on the point around like parking and enforcement, I think there is some work already underway to explore with neighbourhood services, sorry, Colin, neighbourhood service area. They're currently looking at some sort of GPS tracking, which we would be able to give a sort of real time. And I think over time, there are multiple use cases for that. So we will need to look and select where that's probably the most effective. But I think that is something that we can look towards doing so that we are able to be more proactive, or if we need to be reactive, react much faster.
That's interesting. Councillor Lloyd Selby, would you like to come in with a question? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thanks, Nikki, for taking us through this. I want to understand more about what this actually means for residents. So I know that the aim of this is, for example, to reduce call handling times for residents. So if we look at, I think it's 6.9 in the report that says by the end of the summer, changes made to waste management and highways will reduce call handling for residents. So that sounds like a really good thing. Does that mean that there will be internal changes that will speed up the process of responses? Will residents notice anything different? So I'm just trying to understand if they're wanting to raise an issue, is it an internal change that's going to improve their experience, or will they also notice something different? And if they will notice something different when they contact the council, how are we going to communicate that to them so that residents are aware that what they might be familiar with is going to change?
Thank you very much for the question. So it's definitely both. It's definitely about improving the customer or the resident experience. So they should feel something immediately. That first thing is so our average speed of answer should reduce. So that naturally a certain percentage of our customers will drop off quite quickly if we don't answer immediately. So the most immediate thing is that they get to speak to someone straight away. The second piece is that we're also looking, and the technology is now enabling us to do these things, is whether that it may be that a chatbot is something that they want to engage with on the website. We're also able to do things like WhatsApp. Now, that's a very specific transaction type. You know, the contact centre takes a huge range of calls from that very transactional, I'd like to report a pothole, all the way through to social services and complex shared regulatory services. So there's some use cases where that type of transaction, where they don't need an immediate response, but they just need to report something and they need to be able to do it quickly, that actually fits. And I think it's about working with our residents to understand what works for them, what doesn't, being very open that we're trying things and things may work and things may, you know, they may not like it. So it's being particularly agile in our approach. From an internal point of view, it's that data. So it's the insight that will help us work with a team to understand why is this happening in the first place. So if it is what we refer to as failure demand, where we haven't done what we should have done for whatever reason, then we start to be able to see those trends in much more detail now, rather than just being able to say we're receiving these calls. We can actually understand what that looks like. And then finally, the final piece of that is around proactivity. So that might look like, and this is not an immediate thing, but we're working towards it, it is more proactive. So if we take the GPS tracker for the in-cab piece, the vehicle, if we know that a waste collection vehicle has been unable to go to the high street in time, we should be able to proactively communicate with our customers saying, really sorry, we weren't able to get to you today, except so that changes the relationship with the customer. So we become much more proactive in our behaviours and therefore kind of mitigate the call because we have reached out first.
So thank you, if I may. So in terms of the changes, you're talking about the possibility of introducing things like WhatsApp chatbots. So will there be a proactive comms plan attached to the changes so that residents are aware of the different ways that they can contact the council?
Absolutely, yes, and that's some of the piece we'll do where I mentioned earlier to Councillor Prothero, where that piece around what's available online, but also that's the same methodology we'll use to start to introduce these communications. I think as we do a little bit more tie-up around our data, we'll be able to be much more proactive and make sure that we're emailing with the right level of information, because too much can be almost as bad as not enough as well. So we just want to make sure that that's really tight, but also we'll work with comms team to do things like social media posts and also update the website.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki, for that, and thank you, Councillor Lloyd Selby, it would be a really good step forward if we could have that real-time information that we can share, even as you just said, with things like waste collections. If something's happened and they can't get to our residents, as a councillor, we get lots of queries if that ever happens. I'm glad to say it doesn't happen very often. We've got a really good waste collection service, but sometimes it does. To be able to give that message so that they don't contact all of us about something that you could tell them, it would be really helpful. So that's something to look forward to. Councillor Goodjohn, would you like to come in? Thanks.
Thanks, yeah, and thanks, Nikki, so much for this. It's really exciting to hear and really needed. And you know, I know that our residents, you know, trying to wean them off social media by thinking that they can make a post and that will be reported to the council is a nightmare for us as councillors. And I'm really looking forward to the proactive communication as well. That is really exciting, and WhatsApp as well is a lot easier and a lot more accessible for some residents, kind of very immediate as well in a response. So I've got a few questions. I was wondering, one, I wondered if you had a time scale for this proactive communication and for maybe introducing a WhatsApp. I also wondered about the report page on the website. I know this website's quite old and very big and very clunky, and some of the surface headings on the report page maybe don't cover everything, such as pest control isn't on there, the parking reporting isn't on there. So if somebody is being directed to that page, then they may not find everything that they want on there to report. So I was just wondering whether we could improve that at all. Sorry, I've got another one. Do you want me to keep going? Or?
No, it's fine.
The other one was, I wondered if you had a procedure on updating regarding inquiries. It was interesting what you said earlier regarding maybe when it goes to the back of house and other service, you know, the other departments have to reply. Maybe it doesn't always get done. And I wondered if we had if we could put a process or a procedure in place to make sure a reminder, they get a reminder that has to be done, and maybe a customer feedback could be included after that to kind of finish it off and make it a complete package. And it's easy for me with all these ideas and questions. And then I was also wondering, just as a last note, you've got a lot going on there with internal and external related contacts. So you've got, not only have you got telecare and our residents, but is there also HR and wellbeing provision as well on top of that? I was wondering what the kind of percentage was between these services that you were dealing with. And I'm quite concerned, is there enough resources in C1V to actually deal with this and reach the targets you're asking for? Because I know there has been cuts in the past. And is there enough there for you to be able to manage this? I think that's me now.
Okay, I think I'll. You may need to remind me, because I think my mind was going and I got lost at about 4. So the timescales. So in terms of WhatsApp, we would like to try and get that out in the next 6 months. So there's just governance and making sure that we've got that it's actually kind of connected to the resource model, because when you try these things, it's often quite inefficient in terms of your resources. So what we don't want to do is to add a channel and then the experience isn't right, but simultaneously I can't take the resources away and then the call centre drops. So it's just about balance, and I'll come back to the resources and why that's that should be okay. In terms of the proactive comms, I think that's a 12 to 18 month piece. I think we'll need to start with that. The GPS piece is probably one of the more complex pieces. So I think we'll try something a little lighter touch to start with. And again, there are hundreds of use cases, if you can imagine, for each of these types of technology delivery. They will have, we have hundreds of different systems. So it's picking the right one, testing it, seeing what it looks like. And as you mentioned, that customer feedback is really, really important. So the proactive comms is definitely a slightly longer play, but it's about making sure that our technology can connect to each other. But we're moving really fast already. I mean, we've done a huge amount. In terms of the website, the website's looked after by our communications team, but I can certainly have a chat. We definitely want to look at how the website is being used and where those points of, and I don't want to use failure because it's not a customer thing. It's not customer failure, it's our failure to organise the information in a way that feels right. And some of the challenges we're facing now are that the utilisation of AI, for example. So if you Google something, it's just trawling your entire website and it's not picking the pieces of information we'd expect it to. So there's quite a big piece that we need to think about, the investment required to update the website. But if I can capture that information from you regarding those particular points, I'll certainly have a chat with the comms team. On the back office processes, so currently the processes are, and this kind of talks to the staff resiliency and some of the pieces we're doing to try and make our call centre, our customer service representatives' lives a little easier. But those processes are almost requested by the service area. So one might want us to put it on a system, one might want us to put it on a system and email them and send it to a printer, one might want a Teams message. So what that means is that insight about where the information is going and its follow-up has historically been incredibly difficult to track. That information isn't centralised. Our new tech process and some of the pieces of work we're designing, and this should be out in the next 8 to 10 weeks for us to start to identify how we use the data, is to channel it all through a single point and then use some back office automation to send it out to its relevant service areas. But importantly, that gives us the insight as to what is being requested and when, and also track that then back to the call. And hopefully there isn't a requirement for the customer to call back, but it gives us the insight if that's not happening. So that's that piece in terms of what that looks like. Customer feedback is really, really, really important, and we suppress some of our customer feedback mechanics because we were firing a customer feedback request when a customer had done something digitally, and it was almost like, what was the experience look like before that may have been resolved? So it was almost going too quickly. It's what we're looking to do very, very quickly is put back in the contact, then an immediate opportunity for the resident to provide feedback on the call experience, because they're kind of two different things. There's the call experience and that broader customer effort, so the resident effort to get their problem resolved, and we want to be able to capture both. We just need to do it in a really intelligent way, so we're asking at the right times, and also make sure that that feedback loop goes along with that process loop. So it's about bringing all of that data to get together. We're really, really keen to work. How can we, the challenge, I suppose, is how do we move really quickly, because we really want to solve this quite quickly and keep our customer customer voice within that design. So if there are any ideas as to good ways to do that, we're really excited about that, working with our residents, because that's the most important thing. I think you mentioned the communications piece. So there's the new communication strategy. as I said, we're looking at that website, and there's also a piece around that we're just about to take to SLT for its final draft of a new customer charter, which is really about highlighting the need for C1B not to be the customer experience. C1B is a critical part of the customer experience, but collectively as a council, every single part of that council works together for our residents, and it's about highlighting that. And then finally, you mentioned resources, and I would agree that we are definitely on the lean side. We acknowledge and understand that challenges to council budgets, it's really, really important that we leave as much capacity and capability in our service areas to deliver the services. But as the complexity of some of these conversations is actually increasing, and some of the challenges we're having in provision of some of the administration that we probably historically were okay with, but as we've got smaller, it's eating into resident experience time. That has been a challenge. As an organisation, we've committed to providing resource for us for a relatively short period of time. So we're hiring some one-year temporary roles, and the idea is to understand how much pressure we can take off through technology, through improved performance management, through working with our colleagues to understand how we support their resilience and support their well-being. It's an incredibly challenging role at times, and it's really, really important we understand that staff welfare and well-being element, with the idea that those temporary roles help us kind of almost create a pressure valve, so that we can let some of the pressure off, fix some of these things, and then reassess what the resources look like. Some of that might mean us looking at where that administration goes, because the focus has to be on customer outcomes. Did I capture everything?
Yeah, pretty much. That's really helpful. Thank you so much for that. A lot of knowledge base there. It's amazing. I was just wondering, because you have got all the different way. You've got, so you do some HR and well-being. You've also got telecare. I was just wondering if you've got like a percentage of how much of your time is spent on each of you, because as a councillor we do get all sorts of inquiries, and of course we're at point end a bit like yourselves when we get queries from residents, so I was just wondering, do you get, is it like 30% telecare, 20% HR? Have you got any kind of idea on that? If you could do it, send it later on. It would be very interested to know.
Yeah, that's no problem at all. So yes, to a degree. So what we have is a series of queues. Now some of these, so for example, shared regulatory services is in its own queue. Housing repairs, they're two very big consumption. It's not the volume, it's the handling time. So that's the other thing, is it's often about what the effort is to look at, and I say that effort in the best possible way. What's that, that time versus volume. So housing repairs, whilst a smaller volume, of course, they tend to be much longer. We need to take a lot of information off the customer. We've got to get through all of the system and log all of that. So I can certainly share with you both volumes, handling time, and kind of almost like what that looks like. The only thing I would say is there's a queue called One Veil, which is where it's almost the everything else that we sort of capture. So it's not absolutely crystal clear. I could send it to you this week. If you give me a couple of weeks, I think we'll have done that analysis work where actually AI is actually helping us break that down into what that looks like. But I'm more than happy to share with you.
That's brilliant. Thank you, again. Maybe we'll look at this in the task and finish as well, so it might be relevant. But thank you so much. You do so much. I can't believe it. And then also you've got housing, and then you keep mentioning things that I'm like, oh wow, you deal with that as well. So well done, and thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem at all. Thank you very much. And just to clarify, we don't take HR calls, so we are really we are communicating with our with the team. I mean, we will take the odd. I don't know the number for payroll or what have you, but we are really focused on our communicating regularly with our colleagues to make sure that C1V stays focused on resident delivery.
Thank you, Nikki. And as you can see, there's an awful lot of interest from our councillors, which is good because we're hoping to talk about task and finish in the next agenda item, and that will be very appropriate, the kind of the work they'll be looking at. Councillor Wood, I can see you've had your hand up patiently. Please come in with your questions.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Nikki. I understand we've coined the phrase now 95 and 5, but 5 minutes is still a long time to be on hold. I know it may not sound like a long time in reality, but if people are busy and people are running around, I've called a few times, and I must say I've got through quite quickly, so I can't personally complain. But if the average is 4 minutes and 59, which we're aiming for in 95, what resource do you need, or what do you have the resource available, or a plan to? I'm not saying you want to go to 93 and 3, but I think we need to. I understand, first of all, with the explanation, or the idea is that, of course, if we solve the problem, it's of equal or greater importance than how long somebody may be on hold. I can appreciate that, but 5 minutes is still quite a long time. Is there a target for? Is there a plan in 2028 or 2029 to get this down to 2.5 minutes or 3 minutes or 1 minute?
So I think there's a couple of things there. First of all, thank you for the question. First of all, one of the most recent developments and the features we've just released is actually something called callback in queue. So you're presented with the option to hold your position in the call, and we'll call you. So at the time that we were due to call, that we would have taken the call in any case. So if there is an extended period of waiting, or I think I'll have to check, I do apologise, off the top of my head I can't think what time it's set to, but it does allow you to put the phone down, and our CSR, our call handler calls back. They don't need to do that manually.
That's an improvement in itself.
That's itself. So yeah, that's been a really good improvement. I think that queue piece as well. So we are taking a really cautious approach with AI. So we're very aware that a lot of people have had negative experiences. I mean, I have. I'm having to deal with a particular problem at the moment on behalf of my son, and I've got caught in chatbot loops, and it's really frustrating. So we are trying to understand how we use it really intelligently and carefully. Some of that might be just taking information off the customer as they're queuing. So although it's not, although we want to get to them as quickly as possible, actually getting that information off them means that everything's up in front of the call handler. We're able to respond much more quickly. So I think I agree 5 minutes does still feel like a long time. I think it's a financial challenge for the organisation to keep our resident services fully funded. And as we all know, we're under a challenge to make sure that we're as efficient as possible. I think it's an opportunity for us to discuss what good looks like. I'm an ambitious girl, so I will go harder. But yeah,
I understand it all. I understand it. The mechanics of call centers, I'm no expert in, but yeah, it's a metric. We have a metric to aim for. If we hit it, we'll move on next year with another metric and see if we can improve it. And it just needs it's just one of those constant service improvements that we need to change. And I'm not saying that some people aren't able to hang for 5 minutes. I get it. Some people are more than determined enough to do it, but it's the way the world is these days, and we don't want people hanging up. And if you can call them back, that's a great improvement. It's not a rare thing on customer service phone lines to leave your phone number and they'll call you back, and that's much more convenient. Okay. Anyway, thanks very much.
No problem at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wood. And I think, Nikki, as you said, we're on a journey with this one, aren't we? This is a journey, and yeah. So for the first year, we're looking at that 95 in 5, but then it might come down. I'm sure you'll hit it. Right. Oh, Councillor Wood, do you want to come back in? You've got your hand up still. Or is that a legacy hand?
Legacy hand again, my mistake, sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Don't you worry, that's fine. Councillor Johnson, please come in, thank you.
Diolch yn fawr, Cadeirydd, a diolch yn fawr i Nicky. Fi'n mynd i fod yn gloi. Mae hyn yn swnio yn gyffroes. Felly, mae'n ni sôn am adrefnu neu ail strwythuro yn y cyngor yn eitha aml, ond mae hyn wir yn swnio fel rhywbeth sy'n trawsnewid y systemau, a felly dwi'n edrych ymlaen at y grŵp gwrchwyl sy'n mynd i ddechrau cyn bod hyn yn mynd i trafod nes ymlaen. Mae'n bwysig i ystyried rai o'r problemau sy'n bodoli gyda AI fel wnaeth Nicky sôn am, a hefyd jyst y hyblygrwydd o'r systemau a phlatfformau'r cyngor i fod yn addas ar gyfer pawb, achos mae gan pawb ffyrdd wahanol o gysylltu gyda'r cyngor. Mae rai pobl eisiau ffonio a siarad gyda rhywun, mae rai pobl yn lot fwy hapus i ysgrifennu mewn rhyw ffordd, a beth sy'n bwysig yw bod ni'n yn yr ymhabaneg ffordd mae pobl moyn cysylltu, a bod mae'r cyngor hefyd yn ymateb mewn ffordd prydlon, falle yw'r gair, i gwestiynau sydd gan pobl, ac yn gallu rhoi adborth bod rhywbeth wedi cael ei datrys megis pothole. Mae pobl yn gwybod bod mae gweithred wedi digwydd ar ôl iddyn nhw adrodd i'r gyngor bod mae rhywbeth yn broblem. Felly mae'n bwysig i cael lŵp adborth yna, ac yn sicrhau bod pobl pan maen nhw'n adrodd rhywbeth i'r cyngor yn gwybod bod ni wedi cael y neges yna, bod ni wedi gweithredu, bod ni wedi datrys, a bod y problem ddim yn bodoli bellach, a bydd hwn yn siŵr fod yn codi hyder. Felly bod yn agored, bod yn reactive i anghenion pobl, pa bynnag yw'r problem, bydd yn help mawr. Ac mae hwn yn cyd-destun lle fel aelod o'r cyngor wedi clywed am yr her gyda'r canolfan galw am flynyddoedd maith. Blynyddoedd yn ôl wnaethon ni ar daith, a wnaethon ni wrando i'r call handlers yn trafod gyda phobl ac yn deall yn well beth oedd yn achosi rai o'r tagfeydd, falle yw'r gair yna, a pobl yn cael clywed gan pobl yn cael ymateb. Felly, fel ni'n dweud, dwi'n edrych ymlaen at Ask and Finish, a sut rydyn ni'n gallu mynd i'r afael gyda'r gwelliannau yma. Felly, diolch yn fawr, Nicky.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. And I totally echo what you're saying in terms of that necessity to have that loop closed, that I've reported it and then I get to hear when it's resolved, and I don't have to keep wondering if it is or if it hasn't been resolved. That's really important, and I'm hoping Nicky's going to be able to say to us that's definitely going to happen in this new way of working. Go on, Nicky.
Absolutely, and thank you for your feedback. So that, as I said, that first part is to capture the information of what's happening almost when we're reporting. So some of those things are in very clearly defined data-driven systems where those numbers are really, really obvious. Some of those are more traditional processes where actually capturing that data might be more difficult for us. But the first step is to centralise absolutely, and I think it's about being really, really clear about setting expectations, being very clear about what a customer should expect, and sometimes that's not the answer that they want to hear, but there is a real piece about being really, really honest with our customers about they may want it now, but it may take 48 hours or 72 hours. But if we're clearer about that, some of that's about training our team, and some of that's about resetting those expectations with our colleagues in service areas and the importance of that feedback. In relation to the AI conversation, I don't want to be seen as not ambitious, and I know there are some very, very, very ambitious councils around the AI piece. For me, it's about resident experience. I cannot stress enough that it has to be right. So we will try things, and I think we need to be really honest with our residents that we are trying something and being quite clear that it may, as I said, it may work, it may not won't technically work, but it may not be the right outcomes or the right experience for our residents. But being honest about that desire to look at these things, check whether they work, and then clear about pivoting whether we should or we shouldn't. I think a really, really important part of what you mentioned was the breadth of how our residents engage with us. And I think this is an opportunity where some of the data work we're doing and tying some of these systems together, and some of it's challenging because it requires an investment profile that's not immediately visible, but it's about pulling these data sources together or these knowledge bases together. Allows us to design potentially some really revolutionary, sorry, my apologies, but real transformation in terms of the way we deliver services. So it's as important for us to think as we're starting to redesign, and obviously the challenge right in front of us is the call handling time, but really, really important for us is to think about how we inform reshaping of services in a genuinely transformational way. How can we be in place better? How can we provide information to our colleagues in the hubs or our youth worker to be able to give them the right level of information, but to be able to serve our residents as a resident, as somebody with with a challenge and not having to deal with multiple departments. And that was the ethos of the contact centre. And now some of that technology, if we harness it in the right way, allows us to deliver a new way of delivering those resident services. But need to fix the call centre first. But it's all part of that ecosystem. It's all part of that. The architecture is fundamentally the same. It's about putting the right information. It's about giving us the right insight and allowing our customers to feed back on those things so that we can design for the future.
Thank you, Nikki.
Enough.
No, and I know. And listen, it's the AI revolution. We know that, and probably it'll be worked if we use it in a good way. The customer won't even realise it, but they will get the service that they hope for, won't they? The leader has a hand up, so Councillor Burnett, I'll bring you in to finish off on this one. Thank you. Oh, we can't see or hear you, Liz. I don't know if it's just me. I can't see you and I can't hear you anyway. Oh, she's gone. We'll give her 2 minutes. She might be trying to come in again, Reese. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it can help if you leave and rejoin, and just take a look and just make sure that your camera and microphone aren't turned off, because even when you press the request to speak button, if those buttons are red to the right of it, you'll come on screen in the black square there. So just worth checking those. But yeah, leaving the meeting and rejoining sometimes helps.
If she can't, we'll progress with the meeting. The next agenda item's going to be talking about something very similar anyway. So I'm sure if she can join us then she will. So thank you everybody for that very interesting debate, and thank you, Nikki, for all of your questions. You've certainly you've got your badge now. You've come to us and you've managed to stand the test. So thank you ever so much for that. The recommendation was this was a report for noting, everybody. So we've indeed noted it. I think what we would like, though, from you, Nikki, we would love to hear from you again. Yes, of course, we're going to have the task and finish group, which is going to be looking at a lot of these improvements. But as we are in our last year of this administration, if we can ask you to come back March next year, which will be our last meeting, to just give us an update on how things have gone, I think that would be really good. Hopefully everybody else is happy with that recommendation. Oh, I think I've got Councillor Burnett. Yes, Leader, do you want to quickly say something before I ask to move? Oh, there she is. Excellent.
My webcam played up, so I had to go back onto my one on my laptop. I just wanted to say I'm so proud to have Nikki within my portfolio. In fact, all the people that we've had this evening. Years ago, Nikki said to me, we need to know what awesome looks like. I think she's demonstrated what she means tonight. But I think the other thing that we didn't use tonight, because, you know, as an organisation, we want to be the best we can be. And we've got an awful lot of people in the organisation that are working so hard to make that happen. Nikki is one of those, and Nikki's team, a very small team who are doing some fabulous stuff. And hopefully you'll see that as you go forward with your task and finish group. But I think the other thing that you've probably seen through some communications is this whole mantra of no wrong door. So a call might take a bit longer, because if somebody calls in for one particular problem and our call centre staff actually suspect that maybe we could provide some support in a different area of their life, maybe they're an unpaid carer and they've called in about something, and in the conversation, maybe they're struggling. Our remit now is that we will put them in touch with those people. So I just want to take just 2 minutes just to say how amazingly proud I am with all the teams that have spoken tonight, and hopefully really look forward to what you're going to discover with the task and finish group. Thank you, Chair, for letting me come back in.
Thank you, Leader. I'll just go back then to the recommendation quickly. So we have noted the contents of this report, and we are hoping to receive a further report at the end of the municipal year, March 27, so that we can see the progress against all of the targets and all of the things that that hopefully we'll be able to achieve. So can I have a hand to move then to the next agenda item, committee? Thank you. Thank you both, good Johns. Thank you for that. Marvellous. Right then, let's move on swiftly. We're now at agenda item 8. This is the first year review of scrutiny and approval of the forward work plan. Now, I don't know if we've got James or Reese, if you want to just say something about that report, or do you want us to just move on to discussion on this? There's James, I think.
It is. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So just by way of introduction, so the report, as laid out, makes a series of reflections upon the first year, as members will be aware of the reshaping scrutiny changes. So it very much provides a reflection on some of the progress that the committee has made during the year, including details of recommendations. Included within the committee, within the report, is a suggestion of the next task and finish topic, building on the previous task and finish work undertaken by the committee. So it's proposed looking at the contact one veil. So in terms of the ask for yourselves today as a committee, it's very much to note the contents of the report and to notes and agree the forward work programme provisionally on the and also as a result of that agreement, then agree for publication on the council's website, which we do on a regular basis, and also to finalise and agree the task and finish review topic, and look to agree membership for the upcoming task and finish group, also including the chair of said group, so we can look to implement that within a timely manner for yourselves as members. So I'm not going to draw too much in terms of the takeaways from year one, etc. But as the scrutiny annual report is due to be presented imminently to full council, and also the upcoming outcome of the Audit Wales review of the scrutiny functions, I'm not going to draw too much in terms of the actual reflections upon the first year of scrutiny. But it's just looking to, as you know, in the report, there's the element of looking back on the progress as part of the reshaping scrutiny changes, but also seeking full committee's views today in terms of the draft forward work programme that's been presented in collaboration with a range of officers from across the council, and seeking agreement on the task and finish topic and its potential membership. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, James. So in terms of the update of our forward work plan, I'm not sure what CAB committee feels, but there's a couple of additional items that I think from the work we've done in previous meetings that we've requested that these things be added. So at this point, I think I'll just ask if we can make sure that for September's scrutiny, we've got that report on the procurement savings from the Improving Schools project. It was something we asked for in March, so if we could put that one in for September, that would be excellent. And then also we've got from November's scrutiny, again, this was from the March scrutiny meeting that we held. We listened to Tom talk about the new corporate landlord model, and we asked, please, could we have a report on the progress against the plan and the savings target as well. So that would be really, I think, helpful if we could have that for November's scrutiny, if that's possible. So that was an update on the corporate landlord model, the implementation and embedding the process. And if there is anything that they can share with us at that point on the savings that they hope to make in the first year, that would be really helpful too. Then I think when we look at the task and finish, this was the second thing that last year we put on our list for task and finish. We had that really successful handling misinformation, disinformation project that came up with some really good, robust recommendations, all of which I think and this is only because we will review it when the risk register is reviewed, and that was putting it on the risk register. All of those recommendations are going to be taken up. So that's really positive, I think. So the second item, which we've all been talking about, really interesting in all of us, I would say, is the review of the improvement on C1V. So I suppose, first of all, to ask committee, are we happy with that topic? Councillor Goodjohn, your hand is up.
Yeah, can I just help remind for the forward work programme to also include the two items that we agreed today. So also include in the March meeting at the end of the year. But also, yes, to agree that we should definitely, in light of the report we've just received, include C1V as our task and finish for the year.
Yes, thank you for reminding me, Ewan. Obviously, the things that we've recommended for today through our meeting, they would also need to go on the forward work plan for March for next year. So please make sure, if we can make sure those are included. Right, do we need to go for a vote on the acceptance of the task and finish project that we're going to go with, or are we all happy? If you're happy, then we can just hand to move on that one, and then we'll just talk about membership. Councillor Goodjohns, yes, that's lovely, fine. So we're moving now to the membership. So committee, can we just talk about who would like to be involved in this task and finish group? I'm happy to just, if you want to put your hand up now to say yes, you would like to be involved in it, because I would like as many of you to, because this is an interesting topic, and I know from the debate we've just had, lots of people are interested in. So I can see Councillor Emma Goodjohn, Councillor Jane Norman, Councillor Ewan Goodjohn, Councillor Ian Johnson. Is there anyone else then that would like to be involved in this task and finish? I've got, we had an apology from Councillor Sam Campbell. She couldn't be here tonight, but she did want us to know that she would like to be involved in this task and finish group. So if we can make sure, Rhys, that Sam Campbell is also involved because she would like to be. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 5 of us. Is there anybody else who would like to? I think we say, I think 6 members is the figure normally. Is that right, James? Would you like to provide us with some guidance on that one?
There is no formal set number for the number of members for the task and finish group, but 5 should provide a sufficient number to provide a range of views to help shape that work.
Okay. I tell you what we'll do. We'll leave this slightly open because I am, you know, it's been a long meeting and here I am now holding everybody up against the wall going, please, would you like to be in this? You might want to think about it. You might want to come back to us. We've got 5 very willing participants. And if another person would like to join, that's absolutely fine too. I think what we will need to do then is to agree a date for our first meeting. James, can we do that offline or do you want us to agree a date here and now? Because we don't have very long in which to make a difference with this task and finish.
If it's okay, Chair, I'd like to agree that offline, if it's okay, just
Okay.
it's quite a challenge in terms of members' availability, etc. So yeah, would rather.
I know, we're going to just say, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
we'll do that then. So, so members, we'll let you know in the next couple of weeks when we can do this. And obviously, Councillor Johnson.
Sorry, Chair, I wanted to just make some wider comments before we finish the item. Yeah, just a point, ychydig o bwyntiau hollol naid yn gyffredinol ar y adroddiad yma. Un yw, just, you know, ar gyfer y record yn y byd yw nodi'r barn cynghorwyr sydd yn amrywio am y newidiadau i'r ffordd o graffu yn y cyngor. So we just yn nodi bod hyn yn rhan o'r adroddiad. Felly wy'n edrych ymlaen at gwaith manwl yn ystyried y goblygiadau o'r cyflwynwyd tipyn dros blwyddyn yn ôl. So hyn yn un pwynt i nodi. Ail pwynt yw, dwi'n gwybod dwi'n eog o hyn trwy awgrymu na i cytuno i pethau yn ystod y cyfarfod, ond mae'r cyfarfodydd mae'r agenda yn edrych yn eitha drwm ar gyfer bob un o'r cyfarfodydd ni yn y blaen rhaglen gwaith. Dwi'n nodi hyn wedi, er enghraifft, hen ar ôl 2.5 awr, heb i ni wir yn anghytuno unrhyw beth. Dwi jyst yn nodi gwaith drwm sydd gan y Pwyllgor yma. Os di ai ofyn, nodir bod cyfniadau o'r arolwg siarad am bywyd yn y fro hefyd i ychwanegu i'r amserlen. A oes syniad pryd yn union bydd hyn yn digwydd? Ydy hyn yn rhywbeth ni'n gallu disgwyl yn gynnar yn y flwyddyn neu yn hwyrach? A oes reswm pan mae hyn heb cael ei drefnu eto. So dyna'r prif gwestiwn fi, ond fel dweud, dwi'n hapus i gymryd rhan yn y gwaith gorchwyl am siwn fi ac yn y blaen, a dwi'n edrych ymlaen at y gwaith yna. Diolch.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. James, are you able to come in on Councillor Johnson's questions there? Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So in terms of the reshipping scrutiny changes, they'll be presented to, we're looking to present the report to the full Audit Wales report to Governance and Audit Committee, hopefully in July, but obviously cite members on that beforehand through some briefing activity, because as we know, it's been quite a member-involved process in terms of delivering those changes. In terms of the Let's Talk Life in the Vale element, it's coming with a comms strategy to Cabinet later this month, so potentially looking at the next meeting of scrutiny. So I believe, and this is in my portfolio, but it's coming as part of a wider package. So looking at the comms strategy, the participation strategy, and some various other pieces. It's very much framed around a response to the Let's Talk Life in the Vale survey results. So considering what we do what the council does as a result to this one. And apologies, I did have some technical errors, Councillor Johnson, so I did miss the last 30 seconds. If there was any additional question, my apologies on that front.
Dim cwestiwn go iawn, jyst o'n i'n edrych ymlaen at yr gwaith gorchoel sy'n mynd i ddigwydd. Felly dim cwestiwn, bellach.
Thank you, Councillor Goodjohn. Thank you, James. So yes, we will get back in touch with everybody who. Everyone here who's said they'd like to be part of the task and finish group, and we will work on the timelines for that as soon as we can. I think that we've covered everything then on this particular agenda item, so if everybody's content with what we've talked about on this one and we can have a hand to move, I would appreciate that. Thank you, Councillor Goodjohn. And James, so you've come back in.
Sorry to come in, Chair. I just wondered if it's possible also to nominate a chair for the task and finish group tonight, if possible, please.
You'd like to do that now? No problem.
If possible, please, that would be much appreciated. Apologies, members, for delaying the meeting favour.
No, that's absolutely fine. Councillor Norman, would you like to nominate somebody? I can't. Yeah, we can't hear you. Okay, so, Councillor Norman, you're back. You're back with us.
I'd like to nominate you, Councillor Prothero, as chair.
Okay, that's very, very kind of you. Am I able to nominate somebody myself as well? Because I would like to nominate Councillor Emma Goodjohn, who clearly from the questions tonight, she has a real passion and interest, and she's already digging deep with the questions that she's put to Nikki. So I think she'd be a really good chair to have as well. Councillor Johnson.
Dwi'n hapus I eilio Cynghorydd Emma Goodjohn, gan fod wi ddim yn siŵr os mae Cynghorydd Prothero eisiau bod ar y pwyllgor yma.
Thank you. So we've had a nomination for me, but that hasn't been seconded. So thank you ever so much, Councillor Norman. And we've had a seconded nomination for Councillor Emma Goodjohn. So can we say, Councillor Emma Goodjohn, you've got the job. Thank you ever so much. Okay. Right. So can we leave the vice chair decision for the first meeting? Would that be okay, James?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for nominating the
chair. Have I done enough today for you? Thank you.
Have, yes. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Okay. Well, I hope Councillor Goodjohn, you're okay with that. We put you on the spot there a little bit, but yeah. Let's finish this session off then. So our recommendations were that we add a couple of items onto our forward work plan, as we've discussed, James, and we've agreed the topic for our task and finish group. We've agreed the membership, and we have nominated and agreed our chair for this very important task. So that's great. Thank you, everybody. If I can have a hand to move now. Thank you, Councillor Goodjohn, both of you. That's super. So let's move then on to the last agenda item, which is agenda item 9. Any items which the chair's decided are urgent. Part 1, we don't have any. Part 2 then, the public and press exclusion bit. We don't have any urgent items on that one either. And we have, at this point now then, just to say that we can agree the date of our next meeting, which we already know is the 8th of July. So it's a little bit closer, a month away. And I just want to say to you all, thank you very much for your participation, for your patience, for all of your questions. It's been a really good, robust debate tonight, I think, and thank you, officers, for your support and coming ready and prepared for us. So good night, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.